This is our cat.
Okay, so let's get started. So this is our 4th day of remote learning support for grade 3 and 4. We're going to combine them today. And sometimes participants just kind of pop in and out, and sometimes they stay the whole time. So we're just going to try and get started, and then it gets recorded so that everyone can see it later on their own time. So you're with Pam Gallant and myself, Kate Allison. We're from the program team. And then we're joined here by a few remote teachers. And I just see Rhonda popped in here, which we'll introduce in a couple of slides. Oh, and Pam, I forgot to change that one slide.
Oh, from the snow?
Now. No, the flexible slide, but that's okay. We'll just go through it quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start by having our land acknowledgement. This is a nice picture taken by Pam just outside her house. So we would like to acknowledge that the land on which we are gathered is part of the traditional territory of the Chippewa, Odawa, Potawatomi, and Delaware nations. Okay, so we're here to answer your burning questions. I was actually going to add like a little burning Giphy here, but then I sometimes find those a little irritating to watch if you're on the slide for a long time. So I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. And you're welcome to add in something in the chat or come off mic if you would like to just add a question there if you have anything that you're really wondering about.
Makes me think, Kate, about like visually stimulating for one may not be visually stimulating for another, like when we have our slides going. So I know, Lindsay, you have different ones for your day-to-day, a different slide deck for every day of the week. So consistency. So, you know, it's interesting what we find to be visually engaging for us.
And sometimes like too much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead here and continue on with our theme this week, which is sort of, Pam and I thought about putting our support this week in these 4 kind of containers about being flexible, keeping connected with our class, keeping the learning going, and then also sharing resources and learning from each other and our awesome virtual learning peeps who are here.
Yeah. I'm glad we've kind of had that structure to ground ourselves this week, Kate, as we went along listening to many voices. And it's, even though we had the same 4 topics, it's been different every day because
exactly.
Or the environment changes and that sort of thing. So
yeah, I know it's been really good because you can put lots of the stuff in those boxes, right? Okay, so we're here. I see Rhonda has joined us. Rhonda Watson. And Lindsay is back, which is great. I think Joanne, she sometimes gets busy in her async time with her class, but I know that's ending. And then Jennifer Reyes is here to join us. And I know that Jen hasn't been with us this week yet, so it'll be great to hear her voice too. So we kind of started with this. I'm just going to fly through some of these that we've gone through this week about being flexible and thinking about all these different ways that we need to be flexible in the remote learning environment. We kind of touched base on those pretty in depth yesterday for sure, on like teaching the skills and DPA breaks and stuff like that. So just keeping these things in mind always this week if you haven't been able to watch any of the other sessions.
Did any of those things show up today in your class, Rhonda or Lindsay or Jen, about being flexible? Oh, Rhonda, you're still on mute, my friend.
More in the beginning. I mean, it just, yeah, I mean, more in the beginning, but once everybody got onto the tech, it was pretty good. It was pretty
good.
But yeah, a lot of the breaks. I think I probably take more breaks than I have ever taken in my teaching career. 40 minutes, we have a break, and it's yeah, they need it.
Yeah. So if you're grade 3 crew, 40 minutes is like tapped out.
It is.
We need to do something different.
It is, yeah.
You know what, Rhonda, that is actually a great point. And even though you haven't seen that, that kind of goes along with what I have here, thinking about like where it says balancing synchronous with asynchronous learning. We're thinking about like how I'm sure like you've now realized that your kids can, you know, pay attention for about 40 minutes and then they need a break. But I'm sure it wasn't always like that. Like at the beginning of the year.
I was I tried, I had never taught grade 3 before. So I was really nervous about having to, I was afraid of making them sit for so long. So I really tried to be conscious of it, because I thought, oh my, I just, I can't imagine what they're going to be like if I tried to teach it more like a grade 4 or 5. So I was really conscious of it from the start, just to make sure I had those breaks in there and try to, and I think one of the things teachers need to think is that you don't necessarily have to be talking the entire teach. You're not teaching the entire time. You can have that independent work time during your synchronous time. Being there for support. I've been using my the work time more as a way to get students who need scribing, need some extra support. I can work with them one-on-one. Kids pop back in, ask me questions, and then leave again. I'm still online. I'm not offline. They know they can come to me
Mm-hmm.
for any support that they need.
Mm-hmm. Actually, that's some great points there about synchronous time and what that looks like.
Yeah.
I'm interested too, like from Jennifer or Lindsay. So, like, you must be really conscious of how much time you're actually kind of doing the talking and the teaching, just because that sounds like I know I've run a couple number talks this week, and all of a sudden it's been like half an hour, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to get them doing something. Like, how do you feel like that has changed over time?
I can speak to that. I know that we battled with a lot of technical glitches for the first 6 weeks or so. I'm in a unique position because I'm 0.5, and each morning my focus is language and social
Mm-hmm.
skills.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have the number talks that go with math, but I know that up to this point, we had been working on reading things together and taking maybe an extra, like the recesses at 10 after 10, but we would do meditation or activate calm.com or do different little mind break activities throughout the morning. But now we're at the point where I'm building up on what Rhonda said. We can do guided reading in different breakout rooms using different levels of reading. And I can bounce from room to room, and they aren't logged into me listening to a lesson from 9 until 9:30. They know to go right into their kidsA2Z.com program and find the assigned reading, and they're reading it for fluency, and they're working well in small groups, taking turns reading aloud. And then I can bounce into each group and ask them questions and listen to them reading, just as I would in a regular brick and mortar school. So, but it takes time to work up to that.
Mm-hmm.
And teachers new to the virtual world need to realize that the glitches have to be worked out first. You have to know and understand what everyone's technical capabilities are first.
Mm-hmm.
Build to that that sense of comfort of having the kids go immediately into a breakout room. The green room goes into the green room. The red room goes into the red room, and they begin their guided reading tasks. And know that I'm overseeing all of the rooms at the same time and listening, that everyone is taking turns and so on. So I have a very good experience.
Yeah, it sounds very similar to what would be happening in a face-to-face classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had to take the time to build up that independent skills, and I'm working with 3 or 4 here. You have to problem solve on your own for a little bit. So, but it's just that tech piece in between there. So you're refining what that synchronous learning time looks like all the time.
So it sounds like too, Rhonda, and probably Jen, you kind of touched on this too, and I'm sure Lindsay would agree that like at the beginning, you're taking lots of breaks, right? Not just because grade 3 was new, but they needed it, right, at the beginning. So like what kind of time frame would you suggest that, you're all together as a class or discussing as a class or teaching as a whole class before you're like, okay, go and do it and come back? Or like what would be a good time frame to sort of...
I used a lot of the 40 minutes. The 40 minutes, I would have 40 minutes, the go noodle break, then we would be back to something else. I mean, when I did math, I would usually do basically the teaching part first, take a break, and then explain the independent work and take it. So they kind of got used to that routine. that, you know, it was easy.
What about you, Lindsay? How does your room work at the beginning of the year?
So I feel like I have lots to say from all of that because it's so true. For example, today we did the live virtual field trip at the Toronto Zoo
Oh,
that I'm sure all of Ontario did. And it was great, but it was so funny because that was only half an hour and I could watch my kids getting silly. And I thought like that was a break in an adult mind, that's a break, right? But
yes.
to them, it was still staring at a screen for 30 minutes. So they were still done. So then we had to pretty much do, like we did some physical activity after that. And then it was like, okay, now it's lunch. Let's hope we can get back to this after, right? So which is similar to real life school. And I would agree with the other teachers that it's like probably about 30 minutes of me talking and then they're done. Like they need to go do something independently. Beyond that, it's like you're losing them. But again, this is the lowest I've ever taught as well. So, but I think it's pretty typical of a 9-year-old, right? Like that's, they need that. And then just going off of what, was it Rhonda?
Yep.
Rhonda said about the, it was Jen, what she said about the reading groups that I think at the beginning of the year, I always think, okay, this is how my daily 5 is going to look. And you know how it takes forever in the classroom to get them to get those movements so that you don't have to speak. And they know where to go and how to do it. We're like, I think in January now, we are still on Mondays, everyone's doing word work. On Wednesday, everyone's reading as a guided reading. Like we're still not doing it where they're doing 5 in a day. It's still one thing each day. Because we're still not even at the point where they know where to go and how to do it independently.
Yeah,
But going slow is probably giving you quality.
For sure. That's what I mean. Like, but I'm just saying those teachers listening to this this is their first week of remote, there's certainly a daily 5 in class. They might be at a daily 5 in school by now, right? But in the virtual world, it's such a different environment that it's still it's a really long process to get them independently moving from those tasks.
So what I'm hearing you say too is that your synchronous time is a combination of teacher instruction, independent student work, a break that we're doing together, maybe a small group.
Yeah, conferencing for sure. Like, so I usually have like my main Google Meet open and I teach my lesson or teach my whatever I read or whatever we're doing as a group. And then I send them off to an independent task. And then I open my small Google Meet. I say small, it's the same size, but there's no one in it. And then students come into that as they need. That's kind of like, I actually have it labeled in my classroom as go to see Miss Arquette at her desk. Because that's what they would do, right? They'd come to my desk in school.
So Lindsay, in calendar, did you create that event and it just runs simultaneously throughout the day as well? So you just have a couple meets that you've set up for your year?
Yeah, I have about 5 meets that repeat every single day.
Okay.
So and then I use them as we need them.
Okay. All right, that makes sense.
Yeah. That took a while to figure it out. It took a while to figure that out.
Did it? Yeah, I bet. Yeah, but that is a good tip. I didn't know you guys were doing that, so.
There's another way to do it too. If people are using Google Classroom and they just want to attach a slide. I don't know if someone earlier this week has touched on creating a slide with different rooms, different colored doors, and then adding a link once to each door and redirecting kids back to Classroom and just say, click on the green door or click on the red door, and they're so used to going to that door. They know where it is. It's under a subheading called reference.
Google. Jennifer, do you do that right now? Like with your kids? Is that how they go from room to room?
Yeah, we just go right back to Google Classroom, go into classwork. There's a subheading saying Ms. Ray's morning lessons, and then there's a subheading that says Ms. Ray's reference pages, and it's right there. You just click on it and they click on the door that they're supposed to enter for whatever task, whether it's a reading task or to privately, like what you have, go to your desk. I'm just suggesting that it's just an alternate way that you can set it up so that it's permanently there and you don't need to be setting up new links every day.
Mhm.
So I do that with my, like on, when I say we do like guided reading. So on Wednesdays, my students go into separate Google Meets like Jen, you were saying, and they have their own, they usually have something they're assigned and I'm popping in and out of the meets. So those are all still my meets that I created, like those 5 meets that are ongoing. But, and I did what you'd said, Jen, like I have a Google slide that has their names and the link that they're supposed to go to. So it's, but I never use it for like every day. So now you're making me think like, maybe I should use it for every day. That's good.
Well, if they're mastering it in one day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, once it's set up,
Awesome.
it's the busy part is setting it up, right? Once they're
Yeah.
already established.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great,
Because your
Jen.
Google Meet could be like, you know, read with a friend, right? That's one of those daily 5 things. You kids go in there where they're actually
Mhm.
each
Mhm.
other,
Mhm.
not interrupting. And
Yeah. Yeah, neat. So many cool ways you can use that.
We did
So
small-
that kind of moved into our awareness of student needs. We were kind of thinking of throwing this in here because maybe more for face-to-face teachers that see kids' needs in class, and then now they see them virtually and they're like, whoa, I didn't know that about you, right? Because that maybe wasn't something that they'd seen before, or they're really whatever it is, right? I just thought it would have been interesting to hear from face-to-face teachers. Oh, Kelly's here. Hi, Kelly. Are you finding that like some of your kids who are sort of different online than they are face-to-face, or?
Well, I think there's definitely some support that's coming in and out that they don't get in the classroom, where every once in a while parents checking. So they have a little more check over themselves than they sometimes
Right.
in a face-to-face classroom. But it's actually interesting to me. The opposite is true. I'm finding there's certain kids who are impulsive in the classroom, and they're really good with their mute and unmute. So they're kind of impulsive, like they just can't wait for their turn. And it's
Yeah.
the same kids. So they do show their true colors, doesn't matter where they are.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true, right?
I found my student with autism last year, she really did well with online learning.
Yeah.
She knew the routine. She came back every day during office hours for extra help. And I think it was having dad there saying, well, you have to get your math done, or you're not getting, time on your computer or time on your Nintendo Switch. And, in the classroom, it would be crumple it up, throw it on the floor. And now I have an extra support there, and she's getting the help every day that she needs, and thriving. So
There's definitely a niche. There's definitely a niche for this environment of learning, right? And I think it will probably stick around.
Yeah, but it's such a hard thing to support, because really the parents,
Mhm.
not their job to
yes.
I mean, it is obviously their job to help their child,
Mhm.
but it's our job during the day. So I
Mhm.
almost feel a little guilty thinking that they're also stepping in and helping you
Yeah.
to
But
be
she
more
didn't
efficient at your job.
she didn't have the distractions either. She didn't have the things that would set her off either.
Oh, for sure.
The annoying students, or if the noise was too high, like it was so much nicer for her, or she could easily walk away if she needed a break. There's that flexibility too.
Yeah. Kelly, I was thinking about our conversations we had earlier this week about what happens at break times, like whether the Google Meet is on and off. And it was something, I think it was Jess from yesterday was saying that like her students have been engaged in virtual learning since September, and their class has become their network of friends, which, I was understanding, and they use the break times to converse. But she also added that layer of like those families have chosen virtual school maybe because they needed to stay home as a family and not engage in the public. So like really that is that kid's only access to a social life. Whereas our students that are in the face-to-face environment, they've continued on living in the community, going outside for recess, engaging up until Christmas time, really, like they had those connections. So do they need that lunchtime to get to know each other and hang out? It's not as critical for their social development as I imagine it would be for the virtual school kids.
And actually, Pam, funny you say that, because I said that I was doing 10 minutes of each break and allowing them to have that social time. And actually today, they didn't choose that. They chose to go have their lunch and go outside.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know that they really are. There's a couple of them that like to be,
Mhm.
for the majority of them, I think you're
Mhm.
exactly right.
But I just like, I've thought about how different these are, like what
Yep.
school has been virtual school face to face. Now it may change since we're going to be a little bit longer at this, but
I didn't hear the announcement. I missed that.
yeah. Well, it looks like we're staying, it's, I don't know how official it is, but the media is saying until January 25th.
That's what I kept looking up at, if you're
Okay.
wondering. I have a TV right there.
Everybody,
I was trying to read it.
Yeah, are we more important than the news announcement?
No, I was like, should I turn my camera off? I keep looking up. I have the news on.
So that kind of brings to our next point, addressing challenging events. So,
Distractions.
you know,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Well, and we were thinking about this one because I was reading in some of my social posts about how the week was going, like from parent perspectives, and some of them, you know, have heard and seen some things in classes, right? Because now, you know, slips of the mouth and random nudity that walks by or something, right? Like those kinds of things happen. And I just wonder, like, I'm sure when it happened for the first time, whenever something happens, it was like, oh, deer in headlights. But I'm sure, like, how do you guys, I'm just interested on how you address, you know, things that happen that are just a little bit off. Like, do you ignore it or?
Well, I think
Or?
you have to speak delicately, and I think you have to nip it in the bud. I remember early in September asking all of the children to run and get their grown-up, right? Their grown-up, could have been grandma, could have been their aunt, whoever was taking care of them during the day, at about 5 after 10, just before recess time. And then in front of the grown-ups, I reminded the children that it was very important that they have a healthy snack, they go to the bathroom, and they go outside to play. And I did that intentionally at that time so that the grown-ups could hear my direction, that it's important for them to have some healthy, fresh air and some active play. And then after the children left, I thanked the grown-ups for being nearby to help support the child as they learned and became comfortable with the technology. So again, it was just a little kind of subtle hint that you need to be nearby for your child in order to master and maneuver through all of the screens, because the more quickly they were able to do that, that would facilitate the progress in the learning down the road. And so there's a way to kind of touch base at 10 after 10 during official recess time with the parents, and even send home messages or you know, appreciation statements at that time, because really they should not be alone. They should not be there without an adult present. If
I agree.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that that's part of our struggle too, because our parents didn't choose this. So for some of them, giant struggle for them. So I do find, thank God, Google Meet is able to share the screen easily, so I can try to help troubleshoot during the day, because they don't have somebody real that's not working themselves.
I guess we also just have to be aware that like we're in homes, right? Everybody's in each other's homes, and it's hard to sort of just keep that in mind, right? And like, we know we're in their homes and the kids know we're in their homes, but maybe like other people in the family, it's easy. Like, I know my husband will come up from lunch and he'll forget that we're all on a meet and just burst into the room, right? And just to be aware, like it's hard, right? I'm sure. So what do you guys do when, you know, there's been bad, like, it's not the kids?
At the very beginning, I felt like it was, it's funny, the perception of how you're talking to their child. So like I got one phone call that I, like how I talked to their child during, when they were struggling, like how I dealt with it was not how like that mother would have dealt with it. So it was a different balance, because parents are sometimes, especially if they're parents that are, you know, closely sitting with their child, you're teaching the parent too. Like it was a very uncomfortable balance at the very beginning. Now, with that said, because it's been so many months, I've noticed those parents, the kids are now in their rooms, like they're not sitting all at the same table. Are you guys noticing that as well? Like, I feel like there's more of a release from the parents.
Some trust has been built. Yeah.
Yes, maybe.
or they've been brought back in based on feedback.
Yeah. It's been we've been able to see that balance of like parents trying to figure out where they're most successful in their house and how far away they need to be with their siblings and how far away the parent should be, because some are really good if the parent's not there and I can just deal with it, or sometimes the parent needs to be right there. Like there's such a balance that's so unique to this world.
It's a trial and error, isn't it? You know, you give them a little bit of trust and let them try doing their work in their room. And then, sorry, I need to talk to your grown up at 10 after 10 because I noticed the focus isn't maybe where it used to be. Or, you know, I need to have a group meeting with all of the grown-ups, and then you don't center anyone out and you just say, you know, I'm noticing that there are some grown-ups walking through the room, and you may or may not be aware that the camera can record to remind all of the parents of what we're seeing and what we're hearing in the background while we're teaching our lessons.
Sorry, Pam, go ahead.
And I have had to mute students because I can hear parents talking on the phone. Like, so they go to answer and I can hear a parent talking on the phone very loudly and sometimes not using great language. So then you just mute them and say, okay, I'll come back to you. I know you have an answer for me for this number talk, for example. I'll come back to you. We'll go to someone first until it's a little quieter. You let me know when it's quieter on your end. Like, because they know, right? The kids are aware.
Yes.
I had a difficult situation with a little boy who I knew wanted to participate, but he wasn't raising his hand. And so I took him into a private breakout room, and I was asking him, you know, why aren't you raising your hand? Why aren't you speaking when I'm calling on you? And he typed in that chat, he said, because there's swearing in the room. They're saying bad words, Miss Reyes, and I don't want you to hear it. So, you know, then I realized, oh, here's a little boy and beyond his control. So then you have to problem solve and say, okay, you need to share and participate by raising your hand and then typing your answer in the chat so that I know that you understand what we're talking about, and you come up with, you know, alternate solutions. But there are those kinds of issues where the child knows that maybe there's inappropriate language and they are uncomfortable with that situation. And it's something that's one of those challenging situations that you have to address.
Yeah, I think that's great, Jen.
Just thinking too, it's not only about what we say, it's about how we say it too, I imagine. Like tone is a big thing because people may not hear all the little words, but they can sense, you know, so.
And it is like as you as the year progresses, in any year, face to face or where you are, your personality comes right out, right? And as parents understand, oh, that's Kate laughing, or that's Kate thinking she's kind of mad, and maybe I don't look mad, you know, like it does grow on people, and then they start to pick up on their cues and stuff. So I think all of that is happening remotely too, right?
I just found thanking the parents too, especially at the beginning, like, you know, you're doing, you know, especially when they were struggling and you know what, you're doing a great job, you know, just, we'll get through this together. Don't just ask anything, no worries. And that kind of built that communication and that respect too.
Yeah. I think that's great, right? Especially with the news coming out now that Lindsay's sing on the TV. Because that's going to be, you know, a deep breath and So Pam, what do you think about the next slide? Should we just skip ahead? I'm looking at the time.
Yes.
3:30. Do you think that's
but
okay?
I was just thinking, we were talking about when you have those challenging events, like being grateful for people supporting you and having parents as that partner in all of this is so important too. And having those little moments of gratitude is really important.
I'm just gonna skip through that. Okay, so we thought we could share some stuff because, as we now know, the learning is going to continue. So it's good to have
this has been a week of review and connect sort of thing. So next week will be like we got to thinking about how do we keep the learning going, but embrace new concepts.
Right. Yeah. Especially because we know that report cards come in February, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's some websites. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with these, and probably our face-to-face teachers are familiar with some of these as well. I was going to run through them a little bit, but actually the great thing that I found was this document that someone made. This is a Google Doc that someone made, and I'll put the link in our bit.ly. And all of these sites are ones that I had made on my slide and linked to, and then I borrowed this from Sally who found it, and all of them are on here, like 180, estimation 180, and which one doesn't belong. I mean, a ton of stuff on here. So
So if you
there's,
just click on them, you go to the site.
yes. So for this one, you would just click on, whoops, for me, it doesn't work unless I'm not in present mode, but you would just click on the image and then it goes right to that site, which is really great. And there's some good
Nice.
ones here. Yeah. Like for instance, if I was going to click, I actually linked this one,
Mhm.
or I linked to all of them, but I don't know
Just
if you
like
guys use Estimysteries, but these are really great. Estimysteries. They're by Steve Wyborny, and he has a whole bunch of them. And then he has like a whole other unit on splat and counting dots for younger grades, and really good stuff. See, it's taking time to load. But basically, it shows you an image. This is sort of the end of it, but it shows you an image, and then it gives you, you have to do an estimation, and then it gives you a clue. And so then you adjust your estimation. So it would just flash up clue number 1 and say the number is less than 70. And then you would change, and then it would give you more clues, and then it changes. And then on the next slide, it tells you what the answer is. So it's kind of a fun thing to do. Which one doesn't belong? That's kind of a neat one. Do you guys use that one? Okay, I'll show that one too then. Close Estimysteries.
I like these ones because they're inclusionary in nature, right? Everybody has an entry point to them.
They're kind of a really nice minds-on activity.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
get to know kids too. What are they thinking? What do they know?
yeah, so they've categorized them into shape, numbers, and graphs. And you actually can put your own in here. There's a way that you can actually reach out to them and say, oh, I've made my own, and people just make their own all the time. And basically you can just copy and paste this image onto whatever you're doing, if you're in slides or whatever, and then you just put it up, and there's no right answer. So they're just looking at this, and it's like, which one doesn't belong? And they might say 16 because it's an even number. And it's actually amazing how deep the kids can go and what they're thinking. So there's
Like I
tons
might
to
say,
choose from.
yeah. And so if I said 73, because it's not a, like in the times tables, like, you know, all the rest of them, I can see them 10 by 10 grid, 3 times 3 and 4 times 4, but 73 is not.
Yeah.
You need to defend your reasoning.
Yeah. There's some really, and these are just so easy, right? And you can get like a 10-minute rich discussion about that. And the kids learn from each other, right? And they start thinking about great things. The shape ones are really neat for younger kids. So maybe more for grade, if you're going to start out with them, because they're a little more accessible for everybody. So you can think
Lindsay's
about.
just sharing there about, like, even though these are math focused, like it's about the number sense, it's about the vocabulary of mathematics. Finding what kids are doing and having that common language.
Yeah, exactly. I had put in here these, the Math Learning Center, and this is actually on, because the next one was a whole bunch of manipulatives, and you can see obviously it's American based. So there's no Canadian money on here, but there is Canadian money you can find elsewhere, but these are all really great. And so the one I was going to show you is Math Learning Center. And it actually has, I'm sure you guys might use some of these. It's got a really cool feature on it though. Just looking at the time for a minute at 3:38. Okay. These are all free, and they're just web-based apps. So you can download the app, and it does work better if they're using an iPad to download it. But if not, it will still open up. They just won't have all the same features. And these are really great. You can just open it up and see where it says support sharing. They've slowly started to add to all of their manipulatives that sharing piece. And that means that when you do something on here, you can actually like share it and make a copy for each student. So then they actually just click on it and they get their own worksheet, I guess it would be kind of like, and so then they can use the manipulative. So down here on the bottom, you can either send them a code and they can click it in, or there's like this sharing piece here that it's usually highlighted, but I think maybe because I'm in present mode or something, it's not coming up, which is strange. But yeah, this is a really good tool. You can break it up. You can do all kinds of really neat things. And you can like even put a question in here if you wanted to. And then it would create that template, and then, oh, there's the share button come up. So you could put something like that, and that would be the question, and then that could get sent. You copy the link and put it in your chat, and every kid gets a copy, and they can save the image and send it back to you if you want, or they can actually download it to their, if the way that they do it, and send you up their work. So it's kind of neat. That's kind of a really neat feature of these web apps. But like I said, there's a whole bunch more that were included on that choice board here. So the link to this I'll put in the bit.ly at the end. Okay, and then Lindsay emailed me and said it would be great to share arts, how to do the arts online, because I think that you guys found that probably the most challenging. Like all the arts, like visual, music, drama, all that kind of stuff.
For drama, I would do, I did winter plays. So I got these small scripts. I basically just downloaded each script to Seesaw, put them in little groups, and then they rehearsed in the breakout rooms. So they each went to their own breakout room to rehearse, and I would then pop in and check in on them, and then we presented them, and they had to make puppets, and then we presented it so that they were almost like all on the Google Meet at the same time, like the actors,
yes,
right?
yeah.
But although I saw another teacher did it better, she just had them actually record their bits at home, and then she put it all together, and that actually
neat.
well too. But,
Yeah.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah. So that was fun. I mean, it was.
But like if you take that idea of readers theater and Google Meet,
yeah. It worked. Today,
Jennifer, do you teach any of the arts? I know you do language, social studies.
I do language and social studies, but I do incorporate some drama into my reading fluency because we'll do dramatic tableau. So I might have an autumn poem where the leaves are falling. And if you assign a certain line to each student, and they've got to come up with a way to read it expressively and with actions, or, you know, the trees whispered and they're using their voice, and we have fun when we're reading. So we can do that with our reading as well. And that's a little bit of drama just for fun.
Nice.
What else did I do?
That's awesome. Now, Lindsay had a few ideas, but she was looking for some more. So.
Well, I did this today. I just used one of my own print resources, and I read this piece called The Gregable, and so I read it. They had to visualize it. We broke the action down, and then I had them practice like one action at a time. So show me how the monster would wake up. So they all did it all in line. I said, everyone turn your cameras on. So they all had to practice it. I said, do it for 10 seconds. I'll count it out. And then they had to videotape themselves waking up as the monster. And that was
That's great.
It was fun.
It was fun.
Rhonda, do you find it's hard to get students to record themselves who are on like laptops and Chromebooks? Like I find, what do you use?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. I think most of my guys have iPads though, so it's
because you're grade 3, right?
Grade 3, yeah. But
yeah.
I mean, I just work with it. So like the one little boy today, well, I couldn't get on the floor because my you know, it doesn't go. So I said, that's okay. Don't, you know, just work with it, right? Just, yeah. So it was fun.
I feel like I have lots of students who participate really, really well when it comes to drama. And then, but then I have those students who don't want to have their cameras on, especially during moments like that, because it would be too embarrassing. So I'm trying to find ways to get them to participate that's not live. But then, and I was using, oh my gosh, what's it called? It's an app. But it's not always supported was the issue. Like if they didn't, some of them couldn't download it. If they have school devices, it's not an app that's on the app catalog. So they weren't able to download it. So then I'm finding it hard to find a way to get them all to record it in the same way. So.
Lindsay, I think it's something that we'll work on as now we know we're off for a couple weeks. And I feel like there's going to be lots of especially curriculum partners who are going to be working on teaching the arts remotely. Cool. And I'm going to keep my ears tuned into that. Absolutely. And then I'll share when we get connect on our weekly connections.
The other thing I just wanted to share, which was fun, especially at the beginning, when I was teaching my students how to read their emails and email me, because now if they have an issue, they'll email me because that's obviously where we're at.
Oh, that's great. World. Yeah.
But I'll email them something to act out. So we do email charades. They email me and then I email them back, and I'll say, okay, Drake, you have an email, go check it. And then he has to act out a movie or something. And then we have to guess.
Oh, that's
fun.
Just to practice them like checking their emails, because that's our way to communicate, right? I don't see them face to face.
Gamify everything.
Yeah. That's an added tech piece to check your email, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
And I was thinking too, like, the would you rather, even putting up some pieces of art and having kids to describe, which one, would you rather, and like, tell me why, and get that language of reflecting on visual arts. Like that's part in the curriculum too, right? So having kids to respond that way.
That's a good one, Pam.
This was a link that we were going to share yesterday. Pam found it, and on here they have a couple different art things. They have a pixel art, like this is how many are in here. It was kind of like a collection of some great resources, because I think that's part of the problem too, is that if you jump online and just search up like music lessons remotely, I mean, there'll be thousands of stuff, and you just get, and then you're not efficient at all, and you're not sure where you got it, and it just becomes too much. And I think, as you guys know, I'm sure that you can be a part of too many groups and have too much going at you and be sent in so many ways. It's nice just to have like one spot to go to sort of look for resources where you get sort of that inundated feeling. So this was a nice one that Pam came across. It just collated everything, and it has a few things here for art activities. And even on the bottom, I noticed there were some art and culture and music resources. So this might be a good one to check out. We were looking at them earlier.
Yeah, I was struggling with that, like almost with information overload. Like people are being too helpful. Stop sending me like individual links. So I was like, oh, here we go. And when I was looking through it, I was like, oh, somebody talked about that one. Oh, that's a new one. So that I was pleased by this one. I thought there were familiar things, and it was just consolidated in one spot.
I was actually thinking when I read this about making music instruments with Lego. I mean, if not everyone has Lego, it could just be, a paper towel, whatever they find in their house, and like you just sometimes need an idea, and then that just spirals from there, right? So this one might be a good Cube for Teachers, might be a good one to check out.
I noticed they had art projects for kids there too, and they're just drawing tutorials basically, and it's hard to teach art at home with kids not having all the same resources.
Yeah. So yeah, we do have to worry about those inequities, don't we? And even that's outside, like how important outside was to me today at high noon, just to go out and see a blue sky. That was really important, but we recognize that not all kids have access to that, or an adult that can take them with at that time, and we have to be mindful of the resources at home too.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's carry on here. Okay, and then we also just wanted to share before we finish up the resources that, and I don't know if you guys are part of this group, you probably are, the one that Melissa Dent, this website Melissa Dent put together. And she has made a quote, like, so just like that cube one, this is kind of a collation of some stuff that she finds helpful as a remote teacher and has put together for us. We showed it earlier in the week, but there might be some other things that she's adding on to here, and you might finding now as we're going for 2 weeks that this might be kind of a go-to for stuff that has been like tried in the virtual world and successful. So some kind of neat stuff in there. And then I also wanted to show this Google Translate. Oh no, I didn't click a button. So what does that mean? It's not going to play the sound, right?
It was in the virtual resources too, I think I just saw it there.
Okay, this so how to translate. If you're doing a Google Meet and you have an ELL learner, there's a quick 1-minute video that Janessa Letham has made and on how to switch the language so that everything in the Meet for the student changes to their home language, and then they can click on the captions, and then it also changes to their home language as well, which is really helpful. And Teresa Lopatron was saying, or maybe it was Steph Wood, who's the ELL teacher, she was saying that that's helpful sometimes, not just for the student, but the parent sitting next to them who is you know, not as well versed in English as even the students. So just thinking about, because now that you're in their home, right, we're trying to have parents help them. That's a good way to sort of bring them in onto what's being taught.
So 2 great people to follow on Twitter or Facebook. I think both of them are there. And like they're sharing their creativeness and helping teachers out. So we're so thankful for people doing that.
And then of course our show notes are available here. And I just like to show this slide so that if someone is watching this later on, they can have a minute to write this down. I know Kelly was writing it down yesterday.
So
and
what
I did
that will mean, so
Mhm.
what that means is if you go to that bit.ly, you're going to see all the links to things that we've talked about in this session and in previous sessions. Is that what you've been adding, Kate?
I have, yep. And
Yep.
so I just added everything that we talked about yesterday, just earlier today. So I just need like a little bit of time. And then I add all the extra links because sometimes you guys give me some stuff and I add those things in too. So I can't just sort of jam it in there ahead of time, but yeah, it will all be in there eventually. And then of course, oh, I forgot to change this. Tomorrow, we're not meeting tomorrow.
No, it's Friday.
So
See you later.
I am actually going to escape now out of here, and I'm going to click on that. And yeah, tomorrow, celebrate that it's the end of the week and you made it. And we will probably be running something next week. I'm not sure what that's going to look like. And of course, here's our email addresses that you're welcome to email us with any questions that you may have. And that's about it. So I'm going to stop sharing now.
But thank you so much to Jennifer and Rhonda and Lindsay for giving us your perspective, some hints on things that will make life easier for our classroom teachers. So great.
Yeah, it's been awesome. And I love working with these girls when I see them on my meets. It's so good. I learned so much.
Yeah.
Okay, well, have a good night, you guys. Thanks so much for everything this week. It's been great.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, Rod, we got a good recording? We're good?
Yeah, I think so.